Afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We're just waiting for a few more people to join, and then we'll get cracking with the webinar. But welcome and settle in. All right, Coralie, are you happy for us to get going?
All good from my side. And just to say hi, everyone, and just please do feel free to use the chat to introduce yourselves and let us know what organisations you're representing, and great to have you all here. Thanks, Andrew.
Fantastic. Thanks, Coralie. So welcome, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on the time zone. I think it's afternoon for most of us in Africa. Just a couple of notes before we get started. One is that the webinar will be recorded and it will be available on YouTube, and we'll share the link with that in the coming week. We will put that on the WhatsApp group and send out that link to you in a couple of days. If you do have any questions during the webinar, you'll notice that because of the size of the webinar, all the microphones are muted for now, just while we run through the presentation. And if you do have any questions, just write them in the chat box. I'm sure everyone knows how Zoom works these days. But if you just write the questions, and then when we get to the end of the webinar, we'll try and address most of those questions. Just on a couple of other things, we aim to finish at approximately 1400 Central African time, so about 55 minutes from now. We'll try and get to that sort of hard close around then. And other than that, welcome. And this is the sort of first engagement with some of you for the year. So really looking forward to the Wildlife Ranger Challenge 2025. All right, next slide, please. Just by way of introduction, for those of you who I haven't interacted with, my name is Andrew Campbell, and I'm the representative for the Game Rangers Association of Africa, working on the Wildlife Ranger Challenge. And then I'll introduce Keith Roberts to you from Terranautics. Keith.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the call. Hopefully you'll find it useful. I'm a professional member of the GRAA, and I work very closely with the IRF, and I am currently in Saudi Arabia training rangers up here, and fitness training is front and center. So I'm glad to see everyone on this call.
Fantastic. Thanks, Keith. Next slide, please. Just to recognize some of our partners in the Wildlife Ranger Challenge. Obviously, the organizing partners, I'm sure you're all familiar with, being Tusk and the Game Rangers Association of Africa. So great partnership between these two NGOs. And then our primary funding partner being the Steinberg Relief Fund, assisted by the Disney Conservation Fund. And then our institutional partners, so that's the International Ranger Federation, of which GRAA is a member, and the Universal Ranger Support Alliance, of which Tusk and GRAA are members. Next slide, please. Once again, as you come into the webinar, please feel free to add in the chat there which ranger teams you represent, which countries you represent. It's always great to know who's here and who's listening. So the principal goal of the training program is to try and raise the standard of ranger training, the ranger fitness standards across the teams that we work with, and in preparation for the challenge, but also just to improve general fitness. And I think if we look at the results of the challenge over the 5 years that we've been running it, we can see the times are improving, and I think fitness standards are improving, which is one of the goals of the challenge as well. We know that being a ranger is a physical job. Next slide, please. So the idea is just to provide some guidance and recommendations to the different teams for those that might not have fitness training programs in place. We strongly encourage you, to have one in place. And the idea here is just to provide some very basic guidance and recommendations. Next slide, please. And I guess, some people ask us, why is ranger fitness important? We know that these are what we call the 7 pillars of an effective ranger team that we came up with as the Game Rangers Association of Africa. We see their integrity and leadership are really the foundations of a good team. But ranger well-being, of which fitness, health and fitness is a really important part, is one of those key pillars of having an effective team. And we know that discipline and motivation are very closely linked to the standards of fitness that are applied. Next slide, please. So with the training guideline, there's a couple of assumptions that we had, and we'll go through those. It's essentially a 3-month training plan that runs from July until September, building up to race day. It has some individual fitness tests for rangers and also what we call standards. So what are the standards that the different teams can be aiming for? We also provided a fitness test results log. So that's to keep a track record of the individual ranger's fitness over the next 3 months. And then we have descriptions of the different workouts that we suggest, as well as what we call movement standards. So movement standards are just the performance standards, and the ones in the training program align with how we will judge the training challenges in the upcoming months. Next slide, please. So the assumptions that we took here are that, all rangers, we assume, have some sort of basic level of fitness, that they are medically sound, so that they have been checked to be able to participate in physical exercise. And one of the things with fitness is obviously consistency is key. To improve fitness standards, really got to be consistent in your training. So those that don't have, rangers that don't have a reasonable level of fitness to start, should obviously maybe start slow with the training program. But what we've assumed here is that the rangers that will participate in this program will have a basic level of fitness. Next slide, please. So safety and injury prevention, something really important. What we'd like to see amongst ranger teams is that they have, an annual medical assessment. Really important, checking basic health parameters like blood pressure, heart rate, blood pressure, and these kind of things, just to make sure that we can screen for any health issues. Obviously, during the race and during training, nutrition, so what we eat and hydration, what we drink is very important. We need to make sure that we keep hydrated and that we keep our muscles fueled during training and during the challenges. Rest and recovery, obviously really important. So we need to spend time resting, getting muscles, allowing them to recover. You see there, we say, listen to your body. So, you're going to be the best, or the rangers themselves are going to be best placed to identify any, niggling injuries or issues that they might have. And that, one should obviously investigate any injuries or adverse health conditions as they arise. One thing that we're going to be introducing this year is a pre-race medical screening. So that's going to be run through the sports science department of one of the top universities in South Africa, the University of Pretoria, and it'll just be an online assessment that the teams will do just to screen for any pre-existing conditions that might flare up on race day. And obviously we want to try and avoid injuries and any health issues that might occur. Next slide, please. So obviously the fitness training plan is voluntary. It's not, it is adaptable. So the idea is here is to provide you with some ideas, and you can adapt it as you see fit. It involves one fitness test per week. And the idea there is so that we can, you can track the fitness of the rangers, and like any training plan, the fitness should improve as the rangers participate in the plan. We've given 3 sample workouts. Those can obviously be adapted as well, but they give you an idea, and they're basically 3 different levels, a very sort of introductory level workout, one that's slightly harder, and then one that rangers should be capable of doing as they get closer to the race day. And as you see there, obviously building up weight and distance, really important with running. And Keith, I don't know if you want to just mention here, the technique of running with weight. You're probably best placed to talk to that. Really important to avoid injury. If as you start building up weight in the backpack, it's important to concentrate on the sort of style of running. It's not the same as running without weight. So Keith, I don't know if you want to mention a few things there.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, just to reiterate to everyone, it's not a run. It's a speed endurance test. It's if some of the rangers are very capable across some of the locations, and they opt to run. So running, it's not a prerequisite that you've got to run it. It should be a speed march or a shuffle, or there's many different terms that yomping is one of the terms that it's called. So you don't want to take, if you do opt to run, you don't want to take large steps. You keep your steps very small, more like a shuffle, and you move your legs quickly. The key is to have a hip belt so you can offload some of the weight from your shoulders up above over here onto your hips. But you've also got to monitor it. You can get abrasions on your back and on your shoulders, and in that case, slow down and take them. But if you have any niggling injuries, please do not run. The emphasis is not making this a fast 21-kilometer route where you have to run it. If you can speed march it, you should get a very good time anyway. But there are those teams that are ultra competitive. For example, from Kenya, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, to name a few. And those guys will opt to run it. But the running part is voluntary. Anything else, Andrew?
No, perfect, Keith. Yeah, and it's really important if you are going to attempt to run it, that the style of running, as Keith says, is right. It's not about, it's keeping the feet as close to the ground as possible. And it's more of a fast, like a speed walk than a jog, with the weight. Next slide, please. So this is basically the sample training program. I won't go through it in too much detail, but you'll see the work for the week is basically laid out on a 7-day cycle, of which there are 2 rest days. Obviously, depending on the workload of rangers, some rangers are patrolling 15 to 20 kilometers a day, with, reasonably heavy backpacks. And you would then need to factor that in here, in terms of, how much training that they might be doing. Others might be stationed at checkpoints, where they're not getting out and doing, physical activity. And then they'll be more than capable to complete the training program on a weekly basis. So it's just adjusting the program to the operational requirements. Obviously, the requirements of the conservation area come first. But there's no reason why a training plan like this can't be incorporated into the ranger's schedule for the week. So you'll see every week there's a fitness test. You can swap the days, if you need to as well. But this gives you a basic guideline. And you'll see there's what we call day 3 is sort of building up your shorter runs and starting to add some weight to those runs. Importantly, with the female rangers obviously being, lighter builds to their male counterparts, we suggest decreasing the weight to about 55 to 60% of what the males would be expected to, and that just goes to body weight and body size. And then you'll see obviously day 6 is your longer run, where you would start upping that longer run up to close to race distance. Obviously the race distance is over 21 kilometers. Depending on the level of fitness of the rangers, at the moment, you could increase the sort of weekly longer runs, as you see fit. But that gives you a basic idea of how you've got to slowly increase your distance per week. You can't go from, 2 or 3 weeks light and then suddenly start running 21 kilometers with a heavy backpack. It's going to lead to injuries, especially with your knees and hips. And then you'll see there, we've also incorporated where the challenges would take place. So the push-up challenge and the sit-up challenge and the time trial challenge are sort of incorporated into that training program. Right. And the key there is obviously to recognize at least 2 rest days. You know, and those rest days, we know rangers are often busy. So those rest days might be a shorter patrol day or, but in terms of physical, you know, in terms of the fitness training, would be good to rest the muscles as much as you can. We're not advocating that rangers should be sitting around on those days. Just that you might not need to do a workout. You'll see the workouts there. You know, we start with what we call workout 1, and we'll talk to that. And workout 2 is slightly harder. Workout 3 is harder. And we start then, as we start approaching race day, you'll see we start more like a recovery period for the last 2 weeks, where we'll bring down the training load to make sure rangers are capable and able to complete the challenge on the 20th of September. Next slide, please. So the fitness test is obviously assessment of fitness across, you know, running, push-ups, sit-ups, etc. The ideal is that it's done once a week to see any improvements and to track that against benchmarks. Next slide, please. So this is just a generalized range of fitness test, and we have a description, so what it is, and then the standards. So you'll see the standards are minimum, superior, and elite. So minimum is what we would consider the minimum level of where rangers should be, considering the sort of physical nature of their jobs. So you'll see it starts with a warm-up in the cardiovascular endurance. So that is measured over a 2.4 kilometer run, and that should take rangers a minimum of 12 minutes. You'll see that the superior standard, so is 9 minutes 30, and then the elite standard is 8 minutes 30. And last year, you know, we had at least 3 teams, you know, almost breaking the 8-minute barrier there as a team of 4. So it is possible. It does require, you know, hard work and training and fitness to get to that 8-minute sort of standard. But I'm sure this year we'll probably see a few teams dip below the 8 minutes, which will be fantastic. But in general, rangers should be, you know, aiming for at least breaking that 12-minute barrier when it comes to the 2.4. During the fitness test as well, really important to keep a time of consistent rest periods. So as soon as the rangers would finish their run, they would then have a 3-minute rest. And it's important that those rest periods are kept consistent. Obviously, if you give them longer rest periods, they're going to be stronger and you know, it's going to look like they're getting fitter, but you might just be giving them increased rest periods. So the idea is to time that, make have a 3-minute rest, and then go into a maximum amount of push-ups. And you'll see the various standards there. 40 would be the minimum. So 40 push-ups in 2 minutes. Then another 2-minute rest, and then we move on to sit-ups. The same applies there. 2-minute rest, then on to squats. 2-minute rest, onto burpees. 2-minute rest, and then we would do pull-ups for those that have access to a pull-up bar, and we would strongly encourage that. It's very easy to put up in a ranger base, some sort of pull-up bar, but a really good way of building upper body strength. And then obviously important to warm up before this test is started and warm down afterwards. Yeah, and then if we can move on to the next slide. So just in terms of the workouts, as I've said, there are 3 examples. You can adapt them, and they do increase in volume and intensity. Next slide, please. I won't go through all of these. We'll just work through workout 1. The idea is to stretch to warm up, do the 2.4 kilometer run and rest for 3 minutes like you would for the fitness test itself. And then it very closely resembles the fitness test in terms of the movements that you're doing. But it's looking at, you know, time frames that you would do them. So here you would do push-ups for 45 seconds, a 15-second rest. Then you would move into sit-ups for 45 seconds, 15 seconds rest. squats for 45 seconds, 15 seconds rest, burpees, and then pull-ups, following that same rhythm of 45 seconds of work, 15 seconds rest. And then you would do 3 rounds of that. So you would then start at the top with your push-ups again, move through the movements. And so you would do 3 sets of push-ups, 3 sets of sit-ups, etc. And then that would be the end of your workout. So it's a short workout. It's sharp. The teams will be, it's meant to challenge them. And, as those workouts increase, you'll see all we do is just add extra sets. So workout 3 means 5 sets of that. So you'll be doing 5 sets of push-ups, 5 sets of sit-ups, 5 sets of burpees. These workouts are designed to be, they'll take less than half an hour, because of the time frames, allocated to them. So they are, the ranges, the idea is to have a workout the rangers can do during a normal day's work. It's not hours and hours of training in the gym. It's, high intensity interval training. Next slide, please. The key to obviously all these things is actually doing the movements properly, consistently, and in order to avoid injury prevention. So, I think sometimes, when we talk about movement standards, rangers often think we're trying to make it harder. And sometimes that, if you do it properly, it is harder, but it's also designed to avoid injury as well. So that must be, taken into account. The movements aren't done properly. It exposes you to increased, injury risk. And that's especially with the upper body movements like push-ups, pull-ups, etc. You can really damage your shoulders and elbows and things if the correct movements aren't done. Next slide, please. So you'll be familiar with these. These have all been sent through to you and are sort of reiterated in the fitness plan itself. And it's just a guide on how push-ups should be done as part of your training, and obviously as part of your challenge as well. When it comes to the training challenge of doing the push-ups, we expect the rangers to do push-ups as demonstrated here. There is a video demonstration. If you click on the link there, which will show the ranger team of 4 actually doing the push-ups. But the pictures there will give you a very good idea of how the push-up should look. I'm not going to run through each in detail now. But if you have any questions, do let us know. The key, though, when you're filming the push-up challenge is to, if you look at photograph 1 there, is to photograph or video the rangers from the front as a team of 4. And that allows us to see if the rangers are going all the way down close enough to the ground that their elbows are at least a right angle when they get to the ground, and that they're keeping their elbows tucked into their bodies, as you can see that ranger demonstrating there. Okay, next slide, please. Sit-ups, they're obviously very, lots of different types of sit-ups that you can do, and rangers might do slightly different ones. For the Wildlife Ranger Challenge, the sit-up that we advocate is what we call a butterfly sit-up. So you'll see there the slightly unusual way that the ranger's placing their legs. So, soles of the boots are facing each other, and then the ranger raises him or herself up to touch the toes of the boots. So really important. That means a full extension when the rangers are in a prone position, so a flat position, as you can see in photo 1. The ranger's leaning back, touching the ground with their hands directly behind their head. They're keeping their bums on the ground, and then they raise, which is really important and something that we penalized teams for last year, and which can cause serious injuries in the back if you lift your bum as you're coming up. So that's something that we're going to be focusing on this year. And then the ranger's coming all the way up where they touch their toes. So that's what we call a butterfly sit-up, and is a really good way, to do your sit-ups, to make sure you do the full extension. And from a filming point of view, if you look at photograph 3, we would want you to film the rangers from the front as a team of 4, and showing that that angle, directly from the front. Next slide, please. And obviously in the training plan, you'll also see the movement standards for burpees. Some teams might be unfamiliar with that movement, really good all round, movement. And that's, there's videos of that as well as pictures of how the burpee works, as well as the pull-up. So if you do have questions around those, please just consult the plan. This is just a reminder of when the challenges take place. Obviously, the Ranger quiz is not a physical challenge, but is one of the first challenge will take place towards the end of July. And then we move into the physical challenges from the push-ups being the first, the sit-ups, and then what we call the time trial, which is a 2.4 kilometer run without weight. We did have questions about that last year. So the idea with the time trial is to run 2.4 kilometers as a team of 4 within the quickest possible time. And you can see there's a good photo of the guys there running together. And we'll take the time of the last Ranger. The idea there is it gives you guys a chance to try, your Strava, which is a distance and time measuring app that we use for the 21 kilometer challenge. And the time trial will give you a good idea of just a reminder of how that works, because we'll also be using that to measure the times and distance of the time trial. Right, next slide, please. And then obviously the 20th of September is, as you all know, the big event. Obviously something we haven't chatted about. Today's webinar is focused on the fitness, but we'll all have been fundraising until the 20th of September as well, which is the main part of the challenge, is obviously to raise funds for you and your teams to improve their welfare and situation on the ground. But as you know, the actual challenge itself will take place on the 20th of September. And we'll talk to you in more detail around what's required there closer to the time. But the idea would be to do that medical screening about 2 weeks before that. As I said, that'll be an online screening, just making sure we cover all bases from an injury prevention point of view. And then if the Rangers follow this program, they should be well capable and able to take part in the challenge in September. So there's ample time to start training. I need to kick off some of my training, I think, in the next few weeks, to get ready for the 20th. I know it's always a tough day out, but it's about, building the camaraderie, showing what Rangers do. I think last year I said to someone after the challenge, what you see on that day is really a microcosm of what's expected of Rangers in day-to-day life. And that's, grit, perseverance, determination, working as a team. That's really what the challenge is about. And along the way, we can work towards improving our health and fitness, which, helps us with physical and mental well-being as well. Next slide, please. So we've finished with quite a bit of time on our hands. Keith and I are just going to run through if there's any questions in the chat box. We'll answer those. If you've got any questions to add now, feel free to put them in the chat box. And then we'll also open up the mic shortly and see if anyone wants to add anything in terms of their experiences from training for the challenge.
There's nothing in the chat box
yeah.
yet. Yeah, nothing in the chat box yet, and I've been keeping an eye. But let's see.
Anything from your side, Keith, that you'd like to add?
No, it's just start slow is fast. Start the training slow, monitor for injuries, look after your feet, and very importantly, especially for those in very hot environments or that are running at altitude, to stay hydrated. You're going to dehydrate quicker than the Rangers that are at lower altitudes or cooler environments. Hydration is key. It's quite incredible. When you get dehydrated, you actually visibly you can see your heart rate goes up by about 8 to 10 beats per minute. So it has quite an impact on one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a good point. We know that September in some of the areas are exceptionally hot. And we know we've had it in the past. We've had rangers collapse from heat exhaustion and often related to the dehydration, not drinking enough and not having, good electrolytes or salts, during the 21 kilometers. You're out there during a hot time of year. So we always advocate that you start the run as early as possible. First light or close to first light. Get it done in a cool time of the day and make sure there's enough water and salts and fuel in terms of food for the rangers so that they're adequately, hydrated and have adequate energy to complete the challenge. It's really tough, with that extra weight. Okay, so I see a question here from Dell. For all the challenges, push-ups, 2 clinic weight, quiz, can they do as independent groups or 4 men for all exercises? So yeah, all the challenges are for teams of 4. So how the push-ups and the sit-ups work is we count as a team of 4, how many push-ups or sit-ups the team of 4 has done. And for the time trial, we take the slowest, the last ranger. The rangers should try and stick together, but the slowest ranger across the line for that team of 4 will be the official time. And the same would apply to the 21 kilometer challenge, as it's the time of the last ranger across the line from that team of 4. Some areas might have more than one team entered. It's really important to have to try and keep those rangers together for the entire 21 kilometers or the 2.4 for safety reasons, but also for working as a team. That's the fundamentals of being effective ranger work is working as a team. So we're as fast as our slowest person.
Yeah. Just to reiterate that it's the same 4 individuals that do all the events. You can't have one team of 4 doing the push-ups, one team of 4 doing sit-ups, another team doing the 21Ks. When you start the challenge, it's the same team of 4. You can enter multiple teams, as Andrew mentioned, but it's the same 4 individuals that start the challenge that will do every single event. Obviously, if there's an injury, then you can contact us and replace that individual.
Okay, I don't see any other questions as yet. I think we've emphasized there the nutrition and the hydration. The other thing is just the basics of this training program is just, what they call progression. There are a couple of key fundamentals, progression, recovery, being 2 really important things. So you're gradually building up your fitness, over time and then allowing sufficient recovery, when, in between training session. And that's as basic as it can be, but really important. We know that, if you progress too quickly, you're going to get injured. If I just pick up a 22 kilogram pack today and go off running for 21 kilometers, I'm probably going to make it, hopefully, but I'm going to be sore tomorrow, really sore, my hips, my knees, my ankles, because I haven't been running with weight. So that's, I see the question is, why is it 22 kilograms this year? Wasn't it 21? No, it's always been 22 kilograms. It works out at 50 pounds, give or take. And that's, that's always been the weight. Okay. I don't see any more questions. You're welcome to add them as we chat. We do have more time. I see there are categories for other challenges and minimum, superior, and elite. Has any metric been established for running the 21 kilometer with weight? We haven't established performance standards for the 21 kilometer, but I think, Keith, if you're happy, we can do that this year and suggest that, because we've got a solid 4 years worth of results now, and so we can very quickly come up with one for you, Sam. Off the top of my head, anything under 2.5 hours is exceptional. The quicker teams are managing to break that 2 hours and 30. But anything under 3 hours is still, it's concerted effort, and you're going to have trained. We know that times vary from, that sort of 2:15, 2:20, right out to 4.5, 5 hours, depending on what happens. Some of the slow teams have issues. We've had rangers being carried across the line with sore, like an injury or something. So the times do vary greatly, but I'm sure we can come up with some basic standards, Keith, and we'll get back to you guys on the WhatsApp group as to what those are.
A lot of the teams also just have fun. So they're doing the 21Ks and they're not trying to break any records. They're interacting, they generally get a lot of support from their communities and from their protected areas. We've seen some fantastic videos coming through with literally hundreds of people shouting and cheering their teams on, and the team stopping for photos, and lots of flags and banners, and just having fun. And I think that's the most important thing, is, that interaction, the human interaction between each other in recognition of what the rangers are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, some teams do opt, obviously, to get an official time and an official place. The weight is required. So, but we do have some teams. I know we've got our Oceans Without Borders team, for example, that run without weight, so they don't get an official time. We still, put their time on the leaderboard, but they don't get an official placing. And they run, on the beach without weight, as in camaraderie with the other rangers that are completing the challenge. So, for those teams that might not patrol a lot, or you can opt to do it without the weight, but we encourage the teams to give it a try, and to work towards, doing the challenge with official weight. The next question is on which is the best app apart from the Strava. We do recommend Strava. We've looked at various time and distance measures over the years, and Strava, it's not without its faults, but it is about the best that we've got at the moment. So we do recommend Strava. If it can be downloaded onto a mobile device. Any type of smartphone, you can download Strava from the Apple Store or the Google Store for free. And if it hasn't been done before, I would recommend that the ranger teams start getting used to it now. You start timing it. You could also, if you measure the on a normal fitness tracking watch like a Garmin or Suunto or any of the other watches, all those apps, you're able to link them to Strava as well. So, for example, I wear a Suunto watch that records my runs into Suunto, and then the Suunto shares it with Strava. So you can pick it up on Suunto app or the Strava app. It's all linked together. There is some guidance there in the documents that came out about Strava and how to use it. And if you're having difficulties, once the WhatsApp group opens on the 7th of July, you're more than welcome to, put some messages on that. But we do find Strava probably the best. I don't know, Keith, if you've got any other thoughts.
No, Strava is definitely the best. I personally use Garmin. I don't use Strava, but Strava is the best. Everyone that I know that runs cycles, kayaks uses Strava. I'm just an anomaly.
Yeah. Yeah. Next question was from Henry. The female rangers can add more weight to their backpack. No, Henry, sorry. That was, so the female rangers can run with less weight for the challenge, and we also suggest that for the training. So it works out at 55% less than their male counterparts. And I think for the 21 kilometer, it is 10 kilograms, Keith, if I'm correct. Yeah, I think it's 10,
Yeah,
10 kilograms for the female rangers for the 21 kilometer challenge. Dumisani, for the 21 kilometer backpack challenge, is there a standard ranger boot to run, or any ranger boot can do besides the normal running shoes? Yes, so that's an important part is, for the 21 kilometer, the idea is that rangers are in operational uniform. So we do allow them to wear, a lot of the ranger teams make, t-shirts for the run. I've actually got one on now that was the Southern African Wildlife College t-shirt. We do allow them to run in t-shirts if they would like, with the Wildlife Ranger Challenge branding on preferably, or just their standard uniform. We don't expect teams to make the t-shirts for the run, but those that would like to are welcome to. But, they would then wear the rest of their operational kit. So socks and boots, just their normal ranger boots to Misani would be perfect. I know some of the teams have opted to get a ranger boot specifically for the run that might be slightly lighter, but that's not necessary. It's the idea is to run in your standard issue ranger boots, but not in normal running shoes. Benjamin's asked about training in flat areas, or can you also train in other terrains? Yeah, I think the idea, and probably a good point, Keith, to chat to is the selection of your race or your challenge 21 kilometers. We know that it varies greatly. We can't have a level playing field for everyone because we all work in such different areas and we have different terrain. Some areas are more sandy, some areas are more mountainous, some areas are at higher altitude. So it's not going to be the same for everyone. What we encourage them is to find as flat a course as possible, and not too steep downhill.
That leads to it. Yeah, that's injuries. So it's not just about going fast downhill. There's a real risk of getting injuries if you're carrying heavy weight and you walking or shuffling downhill. You will, the risk of injuries will greatly be enhanced. So, we, as Andrew said, try and go for as flat a route as possible. I know it's hard, ups and downs, but just be aware. Going down, you've got a greater chance of injury than on flat or going up.
Yeah. And for training purposes, I mean, we know with running training, often training on inclines, so running uphill can be, exceptionally good training. It would just depend, what sort of terrain the rangers are operating in and how seriously they're taking the challenge itself, Benjamin. We've got about 15 minutes. I don't know. We welcome if, Curly, is it possible if someone wants to share maybe some of their experiences, we can open up the mic if they put up their hand.
Yeah, that's fine for us to do that.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to share maybe some insights, rather than questions, just how they've handled, training towards challenge, or if they've got any good advice for the other teams into how to prepare, you're welcome to do so. If you just put up your hand, and then Coralie will open your mic and you can share your insights with us. The one thing that Dumasani says there about the boots, really important, and Keith will attest to it, is always make sure that the boots are well worn in before any attempt at running in them. It's a constant problem of blisters and new Ranger boots, that we all know very well. So just make sure your teams are, have used the boots adequately and broken them in, before they attempt doing any kind of walking or running in them.
I can't see any hands, but please do say in the chat if I've missed them. But,
no, I can't see anything either.
It seems like you must have covered everything, Andrew and Keith.
Right. Yeah. So I'm happy to close out the webinar. I don't know, Keith, if you've got any sort of final thoughts.
Enjoy it. That's the most important thing. Enjoy it. You rest, you rust, keep moving. And those that aren't going to be competing in the challenge, give as much support as possible to the teams that are going to be doing that. It's meant to be fun for the whole reserve. It's an incredible challenge, this. It's been a game changer across Africa. Andrew, how much has it raised over the last couple of years? The impact on the ground has been phenomenal in terms of awareness and funding.
Yeah, I think we're close to 20 million US raised over the 4 years. Michael's question there, sorry, are we allowed to set up water stations along the way, oranges and bananas? Absolutely. We can, as we move towards race day, we can maybe give you guys some tips and ideas, but yeah, obviously water, really important. And then some kind of sustenance or food. Bananas, I know many ultra runners, use bananas, really good, high carb, lots of sugar and potassium and things, and bananas really good. So yeah, some simple foods. I think the key there as well is also not to use any foods that the rangers aren't used to. So, sometimes you'll get some fancy energy bars and these kind of things, for race day. If the rangers aren't used to them, it can have adverse effects on their stomachs, which is not good. So just whatever they're going to use on race day, that they're used to it, and that their stomachs have got used to it, we recommend that. But absolutely, you can, I know at the Wildlife College they set up, every 4 to 5 kilometers, set up a station with water, some kind of sugary drink, or something with some potassium, sodium, some salts in it, and something to eat. And then the rangers what's quite good, in fact, is setting up a course, to make it easier, setting up a course with laps. So what they use up there is a sort of 7 kilometer lap course, and you do 3 rotations through it, because then you only need to set up one station, and the rangers pass by that 3 times over the course of the run. So yeah, just to close out from my side, firstly, thanks to Carly and Emily for helping us with the presentation, always appreciated, and to the whole Tusk team for getting everything together. You'll see there's Keith and my email addresses. We are also on the WhatsApp group. As I say, just a reminder, that'll open 7th of July, and we'd love to engage more on the training plan and chat to you, how the team's enjoying it. And we're very fortunate, this year to have some sports scientists from University of Pretoria involved with us. So if there are any technical questions, we can refer to them as well. Especially around, you'll have seen some of the injury prevention surveys that have been going around on the African Ranger Network, for those of you that are on that group. So yeah, feel free to ask questions, to, get in touch with Keith or I or the Tusk team, and they'll refer it to us. And, yeah, we'll try and get back to you, as quick as we can. As Keith said, the idea here is really about a show of camaraderie, spirit, and raising funds for rangers. And the idea is to keep that fun element, try and make the training fun, try and, we know that physical fitness has good mental health benefits. And I think those of us that do a bit can attest to that. Dumisani, last question here. Is it possible to increase the time to upload results by at least 12 more hours due to internet connectivity? Sometimes. We do definitely take that into account. What we generally do is, the runs are generally done early morning, so it's between 6 and 8 in the morning, and that's normally done by 10 or 11. And then we have a full 12 hours, until we close results. We normally try and close them around midnight on the Saturday. But if you are anticipating, connectivity issues, I think it's also, let us know, and we'll just, bear that in mind as we collate the results on the Sunday after the race. So thanks everyone, and look forward to hearing how the training's going. Wishing you luck and an injury-free training period, and we look forward to seeing you guys compete in the challenges, and particularly on the 21 kilometer challenge on the 20th of September. Have fun and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks everyone. Enjoy. Thank you very much, TUS team. You guys are stars.
Thank you so much, Andrew and Keith. You've been fantastic.
Cheers. Keep up.
Bye.
Cheers.